Good day, everybody. It's Andrew here, and welcome back to my channel. So we have a huge push in Congress for another stimulus check, and we have a lot of updates to talk about when it comes to what's going on in the Senate, what's happening between Joe Manchin and Bernie Sanders, as Bernie is trying to include a stimulus check for seniors in this stimulus package. Now, there's going to be a lot of updates, so let's jump right into it. But first, do me a quick favor, hit like, hit subscribe, and share this channel with anyone who you think might find this helpful. As always, if you really want to support my work, subscribe to my second channel. The link to that is going to be in the comments of this video. And on that channel, we're going to do more fun things like play bingo, play the lottery. It's going to be live videos where I'm on screen and you can chat with me. More of a community to just kind of hang out and have fun and almost forget about the serious topics we talk about on this channel. But these topics are important. So let's jump right into it. We've been talking about what's happening in Congress because right before Thanksgiving, actually about a week ago, Congress in the House approved the stimulus check package, aka the Build Back Better Act. Now it's in the Senate, and the Senate is trying to make their changes. Joe Biden is hoping that they'll include stimulus checks for seniors. Bernie Sanders is pushing for at least $1,000. Some people want it to be as high as $2,000, and then $1,400 has been thrown out there as well. Now, a couple of things off the top. First of all, it's still not currently in the stimulus package, but people are pushing to include it. Liberals like AOC, Jayapal, Pelosi, Bernie Sanders, they want to include the stimulus check for seniors in that package, and there is a huge push to get that done. So that's really, really good news. Now, I've been talking about the stimulus check for seniors for a couple of months now, as the point of this whole channel is to be an advocate for seniors, right? I'm constantly telling you guys, my point here is to be a voice for seniors and be a voice for those who are disabled, to make sure that Congress is taking care of the people who have worked their entire lives, paid into the tax system their entire lives. And honestly, these are things that President Biden promised on the campaign trail. He promised to increase Social Security benefits. He promised to increase SSI and SSDI. And then we went through a pandemic. This was all before the pandemic. Then we went through a pandemic. So seniors need this more than ever. And guys, let me know in the comments if you agree. Now, I get a lot of questions in the comments asking me, Andrew, why do you even care about seniors so much? Like, where did this passion kind of come from? Because I'm pretty young. I'm in my 30s. And you know what I tell people? I have grandparents, right? So a lot of it comes from that. I lived with my grandparents half of my childhood, and they always took care of me, and they've always worked so hard. And now they're retired, and quite frankly, I see how challenging it is for them. They pay taxes their whole life, and now their Social Security benefits are just so low. So I've firsthand seen it with those closest to me. And then second of all, I worked at a nursing home. I was an activity aide first, where I played bingo with the retirees and played arts and crafts and things like that. So it's actually one of the reasons I'm going to play bingo on my second channel, because I know you guys like that stuff. And then secondly, I became a nurse assistant. So I actually helped physically take care of those who are retired who couldn't take care of themselves. So it's just I developed this passion, this empathy for those who are retired just through my life experiences. So that's how I ended up here. And honestly, just thank you so much for being here as well, because this community has been such a huge blessing. But with that said, guys, let's jump right into it. So what is going on in Congress currently? Well, there's a lot going on. This is kind of like last year when we had the debt ceiling, we had the shutdown potentially looming, we had the stimulus check package that they were trying to get done. All of these things kind of happening at once, right? So it's kind of a similar situation like we had before. So with that said, this headline is titled, Democrats are gambling on a Christmas rush to pass Biden's economic agenda, keep the government from shutting down, and continue paying the country's bills to avoid an economic catastrophe. That is a freaking mouthful, right? So we have the stimulus check package, which Bernie Sanders is trying to include stimulus checks in. Then we have the government funding to make sure that things continue to be paid out, like Social Security benefits. That's a complicated issue. Technically, Social Security benefits has its own trust fund, but a lot of experts think that if the government shuts down, then because the Social Security Administration will be shut down, then your payments will be frozen technically, because no one's going to be there to administer them. And on top of that, they do have their own trust fund, but it could take them a couple of months to actually sell those bonds, decide which bonds to sell. There's always bureaucracy, right? Which bonds should we sell? How many should we sell? And they'll argue about that for months. So not to scare you guys, but It's unlikely to happen, but there's a very, very small chance this could happen, right? So let's dive into this article, and this is tied in with the stimulus check package, so bear with me here, okay? Now, this says Congress has a lot on its plate this month. Democrats want to avoid a government default on its debt and pass the Biden Build Back Better agenda, aka stimulus check package. A bipartisan effort to authorize defense spending is also on the table to pass before the new year. Now, the defense spending bill is always its own separate spending package just for national defense. And that's why we usually end up spending like $1 trillion on that, right? It's like we spend $1 trillion on military, but we can't spend a fraction of that, like $200 billion, on doing stimulus checks for seniors. Makes completely no sense. Let me know in the comments if you agree. Not to say I'm against national defense. I support it. We're the most powerful country in the nation, in the world. But we need to take care of seniors as well, guys. And just let me know in the comments if you agree. Now, Congress is back in session after a Thanksgiving recess, and lawmakers have a hefty agenda on their plates to complete before Christmas. 2 weeks ago, the House passed Joe Biden's Build Back Better framework, and while that was a significant step towards advancing Democrats' social spending agenda, they still have a ways to go. Not only does that framework now face the Senate, where it will likely see additional changes and amendments, including Bernie Sanders trying to do the stimulus check for seniors, and Joe Manchin trying to remove things like paid family leave. But Democrats also have to deal with averting a government shutdown, raising the debt ceiling, and passing a defense spending bill, all of which they hope to do before December ends. Now, Chuck Schumer actually recently wrote a letter to the Senate saying to all the senators in the Senate, as you know, the legislative agenda for the remainder of 2021 is considerable. He wrote this letter just before Thanksgiving. He also said, I am confident we can get each of these important items done this year, but it will likely take some long nights and weekends ahead. The Senate is actually supposed to go on vacation after December 10th, but folks, that ain't happening. They're going to be here arguing about this for a couple of weeks, and Chuck Schumer's deadline is really December 23rd, which is the eve of the eve. So that's kind of his deadline, and they're not going to take that vacation. Most likely, hasn't been officially announced, but they're probably not going to get the stimulus check package done in time. Now, the next issue, which is intertwined with the stimulus check package, is to keep the government funded by December 3rd and raise the debt ceiling. Now, the first matter Democrats must tackle is avoiding a government shutdown. On October 6th, Minority Leader Mitch McConnell stepped in to help Democrats raise the debt ceiling and keep the government funded for an additional 2 months. That measure expires in just 5 days on December 3rd, meaning Democrats must figure out a way to once again ensure the U.S. can continue paying its bills. Again, this is the issue that's potentially tied in with Social Security benefits. If the government doesn't have any funds left, it could potentially have to start selling bonds from the trust fund of Social Security, which could take a couple of months, meaning your payments could be delayed. Again, it's probably not going to happen, but this is what's currently in the news, so you have to be informed as to what's going on. Now, although in the months leading up to October, Democrats struggled to raise the debt ceiling given the GOP stance that Democrats must do it on their own, Insider reported last week that Mitch McConnell might not quite be as hard the second time around. So reports are basically saying now that Mitch McConnell actually might help Democrats raise the debt ceiling, which is the norm. The status quo is usually Democrats and Republicans work together to increase the debt ceiling, but we're still not sure because recent reports also said that he's still trying to force them to include it in the stimulus package, which that would be really, really bad because Democrats don't want to do that, and that could delay the stimulus package even further. So now let's talk about the stimulus check package. Democrats sweeping stimulus check package. The vast majority of Democrats have been very clear. Americans need Biden's Build Back Better agenda, aka the stimulus check package, signed into law as soon as possible. While the House succeeded in passing a $2 trillion framework this month, their version is certainly not final, and it now rests in the Senate. So like we talked about before, it's in the Senate. Bernie Sanders is pushing to include the stimulus checks for seniors, and then we have Joe Manchin, who is pushing to take things out, specifically the paid family leave and some of the tax credits for electric vehicles. Remember, Joe Manchin comes from a state that produces a lot of coal, and he gets paid from these billionaire donors to not try and incentivize people to buy electric vehicles, right? Because the more people go electric, the less people are spending on the things that are produced in Joe Manchin's state. So This is the battle that's going on. Joe Manchin's pushing for what he wants. Bernie Sanders is pushing for what he wants. Now, a lot of people ask me, who qualifies as a senior? Who's going to qualify for the stimulus check? And guys, quite frankly, we still don't know. But generally, I can give you our best educated guess based off of the previous stimulus checks. So usually when they say seniors, they're talking about everyone on Social Security, SSI, and they include SSDI as well. Although SSI and SSDI, you don't have to be old, you could be younger, but they generally lump these programs all up together. So you don't necessarily have to be 65. Now again, that's still not set in stone. We'll have to wait and see, but generally SSI and SSDI qualify as well. So that's kind of our best guess at the moment. So really quick, I'm just going to touch on this. The National Defense Spending Program. Now this is something they do every year. They always go back and forth and argue about it, but they're going to get it done. The problem is it's just one more thing they're trying to add on top of everything else. Now, this article is headlined Key Senators to Watch on Democrats' Social Spending Bill. I think at this point we know it's Bernie Sanders, Chuck Schumer, who's the Senate Majority Leader. Bernie Sanders is actually the Budget Finance Committee chair, so he's actually in charge of writing the large majority of the stimulus package, which is really, really good for seniors. And of course, then we have Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema, who are basically the biggest pains in the butt trying to take things out. Now, all eyes will be on the Senate following the Thanksgiving break, as Democrats in the chamber seek to pass a massive social spending and climate package that is a key component of President Biden's economic agenda. The House passed a version of the package shortly before Thanksgiving, and the Senate is expected to take up the legislation after the holiday break, which is basically now. We're expecting to have huge updates now as far as what's happening, right? Like, how is the conversation going? What's the dialogue? How hard is Bernie Sanders pushing for stimulus checks for seniors? How much resistance is Joe Manchin giving, right? How much is Chuck Schumer and President Biden backing Bernie Sanders' push to include stimulus checks, right? What is the dialogue, basically, and where are things moving? We can usually get a feel for where things are headed, right? Like, are stimulus checks going to be realistic? Is it not going to be realistic? Is there too much resistance? Is there not enough push from Bernie? What's going on, right? Those updates, we should have a ton of those this week. But as of now, it's Tuesday morning. It's been a pretty quiet week. We didn't really have a lot of updates as far as the dialogue and negotiations, right? But these are obviously the main characters to look out for. Joe Manchin, Kyrsten Sinema, Bernie Sanders, and Chuck Schumer. And of course, President Biden as well. He's been a little quiet. President Biden's been a little quiet when it comes to the stimulus checks and even the stimulus package in general, right? He hasn't really been very vocal like a president like Trump or even Obama. They'd be very vocal and in the media just putting pressure on Republicans or putting pressure on Democrats to get the stimulus package done, to take care of the American people. Remember, Trump was like, we need $2,000 stimulus checks right before Christmas, right? Do you remember that? And President Biden really hasn't been like that. I mean, he was with the third stimulus check. I'll give him credit. But now, not just the stimulus check, but he's been quiet overall with the package. It's like he's letting Congress kind of do their thing. And it seems like he's almost trying not to stir the pot. But in my opinion, he should be putting more pressure on Democrats to get the stimulus checks for seniors included in the package. And guys, let me know in the comments if you agree. But guys, that's where things stand today. Things are going pretty well. Like I said, Bernie Sanders is pushing for the stimulus check for seniors. We have Chuck Schumer, President Biden, and Nancy Pelosi who have actively said they support doing the stimulus checks as well. But we'll have to wait and see what happens. We should have a lot of updates this week. So don't forget to subscribe, and I will keep you posted as things develop. Now, to end this video, I'm going to leave you with a clip from the White House giving a quick update in regards to what's happening with the new variant that they're calling Omicron, what they know so far, what they're doing to kind of handle the process, and what they expect to happen next. Now, we've had mixed reports. President Biden, at first, basically experts were saying, oh, it's very contagious and it leads to a very high viral load, leading people to believe it's probably going to lead to more severe illness. So this freaked people out. Then President Biden came out and said, hey, this is something to be concerned about, but not to panic just yet. Give the scientists a few weeks to figure out exactly what we're working with and whether or not these vaccines are going to work. And he basically spent half the press conference urging people to get immunized, right? That's basically what he kept saying. But now, just this morning, the CEO of Moderna, which makes one of the most powerful vaccines, said preliminary data and scientists are saying this might be a problem because the current immunizations might not be effective and we might have to make a different vaccine, which means you're going to have to take another vaccine, like a different booster with different strains in it. It's just crazy, guys. Everything's up in the air. We're getting mixed reports. But with that said, I'm going to share with you the news we have so far. So let's take a look, see what Jen Psaki had to say. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, folks, and I'll see you on the next one.
The president seemed pretty confident Omicron is going to crop up in the U.S. Can you talk a little bit about when we might expect that to happen, how the White House will inform the public of its spread, and then I know it's going to take a couple of weeks for us or the administration to have a handle on all of the issues related to this variant. Why will it take a couple of weeks? Is the president confident in that timeline? Is he all right with that, or would he like the scientists to speed up? And then lastly, on boosters, he talked about the need for boosters. Does the White House have any plan to ramp up its promotion of boosters beyond what we've seen from the president?
Sure. Let me start with the timeline, because I think this is an important piece for the American people to understand what the process is and what the scientists are working on. So first and foremost, as you all know, we have a top-notch group of scientists across the country already set up to do this work. And they are working in close coordination with scientists and medical experts around the world. And you saw that coordination happen over the last several days. So, one of the things that was interesting to watch, I think should be compelling or encouraging, is that as soon as this variant popped up, it was communicated and coordinated around the world. That information was shared publicly in a transparent manner. That credit is owed to the South African leaders there, and certainly the president, to answer one of your earlier questions, is committed to continuing to be transparent with the American people as we see any cases come up in the United States. And Dr. Fauci and other medical experts have pointed to the possibility that that will and could happen, and we be transparent with the public and track that closely. So let me go back to how this process works. These experts, our medical experts, are primed to do the work around the clock. When you want to test a virus, you need to isolate it from a swab and purify it and make sure it is a live virus. And the virus you intended to study, this takes some days. This all takes days. Then you need to grow a stock of it to test. Again, days to weeks. And once it's grown, you have to sequence it and make sure it hasn't mutated again while it grew, again, days. And finally, you need to actually test the virus with antibodies from vaccinated people. Again, days. The last steps needs to be repeated because we want to make sure we've gotten this right. So that is the process that our medical team is undergoing now, because they want to be able to report back some of the important questions and unknowns at this point in time: the efficacy of the vaccines and if any additional steps are needed to take, and we're prepared to do those. What the American people should know is that the president is going to do everything. He's going to always err on the side of protecting the American people. That's why we put in place the travel restrictions, and we will continue to assess any step we need to take in order to do exactly that. I may have missed one of your questions. Did I miss a question? Okay.
Boosters?
Oh, boosters, and whether we're going to promote these further. Well, I would say you heard the president say this earlier today, and we have had medical experts, Dr. Fauci and others, across the airwaves and out there in public over recent days to convey clearly that we know that boosters can strengthen antibodies in the American people. There are still tens of millions of people out there who have not gotten their booster. If people feel they don't know what to do right now, they're not sure which step they should take, even as there are unknowns, and we acknowledge there are unknowns we're looking to get to the bottom of, there's no question that getting a booster will help strengthen people, protect them, and we will continue to project that out publicly.
And then on the Iran nuclear talks, as they resume, Robert Malley said signs from Iran, quote, are not particularly encouraging. And Israel's Naftali Bennett said that Iran is trying to, quote, end sanctions in exchange for almost nothing. Considering the pessimism expressed about diplomacy there, how much time is the administration giving Tehran before President Biden moves on to other options?
Well, first and foremost, unquestionably, our best approach here is through diplomacy. That is the preferable approach. So I'm not going to give a timeline for when that would end. That is what we were going to continue to press forward on. In terms of rumors out there or reports about what is going to be negotiated, obviously I'm not going to negotiate from here, not that you're asking me to do that, but our objective has not changed. It remains a mutual return to full compliance with the JCPOA. This is the best available option to restrict Iran's nuclear program and provide a platform platform to address Iran's destabilizing conduct. That is what we are discussing. Rob Malley is obviously the lead negotiator. We're working with our European partners in lockstep. And of course, we are going to continue to press toward a diplomatic approach. Go ahead.